Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is Benjamin Graham with the news. The U.S. Department of Scientific Intelligence has issued an urgent warning. Rolling Stone magazine readers have seen a terrifying increase in rapid eye annihilation disease. The DSI urged no one read this month's issue as the anti-read technology was not yet available at the time of print. You're listening to Derry Public Radio.
This is Derry Public Radio.
Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King book club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Kahn, alongside CM Alexander.
Hello, everyone.
And Benjamin Graham.
Hello, constant readers.
And today we are covering the movie adaptation of Firestarter. And we have Ben leading our discussion. Ben, good luck.
What to say? I've never seen this movie. And before we started, I turned to you guys. I'm like, what is the general consensus of this movie? I have no prior knowledge or information. I didn't know if this is like considered a cult classic, if it's well regarded or not.
4 out of 5 blue chambray.
Wow, jumping way ahead to your insanely high rating. It was bad. Back me up, guys.
Oh god, yeah, it's terrible. This entire movie is the definition of the shrug emoji.
Yes, it's so violently low. I don't know about low budget because some of the effects are pretty rad.
Yeah.
But just like when you think of bad 80s movie, this fills all of those cliches.
Yeah, it really does.
I disagree.
Wow.
Really?
I don't think that it's super great. It's not one of my favorites, but it's not terrible. And I wouldn't call it bad even.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? I halfway agree. I don't think it was bad. I think it was nothing. Like, I'm not going to remember watching this movie by the time I get home from recording today. It was an hour and a half of blank space in my life.
But it's interesting you say that because I thought that it followed the book pretty closely.
The book, which I argue is boring.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it.
Yeah. I was very excited from Jump Street because for all intents and purposes, the beginning is spot on.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you guys feel about the beginning, though?
Yeah, no, I agree that for the most part it follows the story of the book very well. I disagree right from the beginning. I was like, we got to follow this guy as our main character. The guy that plays Andy, I believe his name is David Keith, which I only remember because he's not Keith David. Is bad. He's not a good actor. I, of course, longtime listeners of the show know that anytime we review a movie, I spend the entire time on IMDb's trivia page. In Stephen King's book, Creep Shows, where he talks about the movies he's made, apparently he says that David Keith was their 13th choice to play Andy.
Wow.
And you can tell.
He really puts up a 13 performance.
Yeah, he's just, when you are being out-acted by an 8-year-old, it's
Drew Barrymore is amazing.
The best part of the movie.
Is, yeah.
I hate child actors. I hate child actors so much. But Drew Barrymore is one of the exceptions to that rule.
She knocks it out. I definitely cannot say anything bad about Drew Barrymore.
But we can talk about how terrible Andy's accent is. Is it like a Tennessee accent? Is that what he's going for?
So
It's, I also read there's, when they are hitchhiking, when they first, to skip ahead a little bit, when they first meet Irv Manders, played by Art Carney, he says that they're hitchhiking somewhere south. Do you guys remember where?
To Tennessee. To Knoxville, Tennessee.
Because that's where the actor is actually from. So, it's not a bad accent that he's putting on. It's just a very thick accent that I did not imagine.
No, I
Andy
never
to
imagined
have.
Andy with an accent.
But for the most part, we're ragging on it. But it does follow. We start with them on the street. We are first introduced to the push with Andy pushing the $500 bill on the cabbie.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. I think this choice is a product of the times because I did not, and maybe it's because we've had so many superhero movies in the last 10, 15 years.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I don't need to see Andy physically doing anything with his hair or his hands. Or anything for me to know that he's doing the push.
He does a lot of what I call Professor X acting, where anytime he pushes, he grabs the temples of and like grimaces.
Although in his defense, at least he doesn't turn on a fan.
Yeah, the visual indicators of their powers being used, I hated it. I absolutely hate it.
And I don't know if that's fair. I mean, I think that's really more. That was okay then.
Yeah,
and it fit.
I absolutely think that you're right. It is a product of the times. For people who never read the book, when they're seeing this movie, there has to be some indicator of like, oh, a thing's happening. But it destroys the illusion because part of Andy's whole thing is that you can't know when he's using it. Sometimes it's not noticeable. Imagine you went to his self-help seminar and he's like, you know what? And he just grabs two fistfuls of hair and goes, you gonna get that promotion. And then, I am gonna get that promotion.
Okay, you bring up an interesting point, which I wanted to talk to you guys later on about, but fuck it, why not? Because this movie's so boring, I don't want to talk about it. I would much rather ask you guys, if we had not read this book, would this movie have made any fucking sense at all? Because I argue no.
Barely, I feel like.
Barely. My biggest problem is obviously Rainbird.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Rainbird is problematic.
Oh boy, is he. But most of all, in the movie, his motivations in the book are crazy because he's a crazy person. But none of it comes across in the movie. It's just, I want Charlie. And then like half an hour later, he gets asked why. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to kill her.
And that's it.
Well, and he talks about taking her power with him.
But what does that even mean?
Nothing.
Okay. Backtracking a little bit, the death of Wanless. In the book, we talked about this for a long time about how he wants to get all the information he can because it sets the obsession with Charlie and her power because Rainbird is searching for some meaning in death when he sees it happen. And that's what makes her special. In this, he tickles him with a stick and then judo chops his nose into his face. Okay, it's so fast and it's so meaningless
and so hysterical looking.
But two things about that. I don't want to say in defense of.
Yeah.
But he gets that basically from a meeting where he's already there when Wanless comes to meet with the Cap. So we don't need him to go through that, I guess, with him in his hotel. It does kind of cheapen it because then it's like he's just there to kill him and that's it. And I liked that they had that. I don't want to call it a moment, but they had that moment together. And I also, the effect for when he hit him in the face, it was like a prosthetic or a fake head for a second, and it just disturbed the shit out of me. And I appreciated that. We rewound it to watch it again.
So I could laugh at it. It looked like a plastic head. You know what it looked like is if they made a model of the actor that played Wanless for the Genesis song Land of Confusion music video. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Listeners, go look up. Is it called Land of Confusion? The Land of Confusion. It's about Reagan. Never mind. Anyway, look up. Just Google Genesis music video terrible puppets. That's what it looks like.
When it's a practical effect like that is so off, I enjoy it. Like,
Oh,
I do.
absolutely.
It adds to the charm.
I thought that death was super cool.
No, absolutely. It was one of my favorite parts of the movie, but also it was ridiculous. So
I'm just a sucker for 80s movies and for practical effects. Even if the practical effects are laughable, if they're practical, I am just fully on board.
Oh, for sure.
Can we talk about Heather Locklear?
Why?
Because, okay, for all the things this movie did wrong, it did one thing right. And that is the happy family before we see it kind of torn apart.
Yeah.
And while it is dumb that in the experiment they get injected and immediately say, I loved you for 1,000 years.
Although I'm glad that, because when he first said it, it gave me flashbacks, Ben, when we were talking about, which character was it? Somebody needing to slow down because he's being kind of creepy.
Oh, yeah. Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Vicky is like, yeah, I love you too for 1,000 years. I'm like, okay, whatever.
All right.
They're tripping balls.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, in the book, they fall in love because they have a full-on deep psychic conversation in this, and they get to know each other's souls, and it's so powerful. And this, it's, we're really high and I love you forever. Jump forward to them married with Charlie and them teaching her to use her powers the way it should have happened. And you see that, and they get an anonymous phone call that hangs up when they answer, and they reference that it's the shop keeping track of them. And you see this family unit that is not oblivious to what's happening to them. Mm-hmm. And so I really enjoyed that element that I thought was missing from the book.
The full 45 seconds that we get of that. Okay, so we've been jumping around. Let's get back to the plot, I guess. So, because there is one thing I wanted to say in the airport. They get out of the cabin, they go to the airport, and Andy is experiencing the headache, which also does not come across.
No.
Because his acting is just abysmal. But they're going through with their plan. They need to get money. But the way they change this scene is so stupid in so many ways. In the book, obviously, Charlie goes and she pushes the payphone to get money. And from her pushing, her fire gets out of control and sets that random guy's shoes on fire. In this, Andy has telekinesis.
Yeah.
And he gets the change. But the army man is just literally arguing with his pregnant girlfriend in the middle of the
Definitely
airport.
not his girlfriend, because he is telling her that he wants no part, and that she's a massive slut, and it could be anyone's kid. He's being a real fucking asshole.
Yes. And Charlie just steps away for a second and sets his shoes on fire.
She turns on the fan in front of her.
Okay, the fan. I disagree. I think that effect worked.
You like it?
Anytime she uses her power, her hair blows. I thought it was okay.
My only issue with it, because we still use that effect, obviously, if you watch any Avengers movie, is that it seemed like for some scenes, they didn't know where to put the fan, or they put it in the wrong place.
They put it behind her a couple
times. It's like going in her face, and it's like, oh no, wait, let's move it, and then it's going back, and it was just
it could have been more consistent at least.
Okay, the reason I bring it up, I have a question about this. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I understand this being how it's represented early on, because she doesn't have as much control over it. But towards the end in the book, don't they say that, like, when she's exploding the cement wall, that her physically nothing is changing on her?
Right.
Because even though some sort of energy should be passing through her, and we discussed that maybe she's almost like tapping into...
That's the coolest part of the book.
Yeah, she's tapping into an alternate dimension, basically, and channeling this. So physically, nothing should happen to her the stronger she gets.
Sure.
And I know that they probably didn't do that because
it would lose
the audience.
Physical me, visual medium. This movie destroyed my brain.
But there are times later on where they don't move her hair, and Andy doesn't grab his head. So it's not consistent. But I wish that I feel like as an audience member, I could have followed that. Oh, when they're at full strength, they don't need the extra stuff. Maybe when Andy's running on empty, he's like holding his brain together because it hurts.
Yeah.
This movie is directed poorly.
Yeah.
is the main problem.
I would say so.
Before we move on.
I had a point that I was getting to.
I distracted.
That I was saying about Charlie wanders off and sets this guy's shoes on fire. So far, a little change, but not big enough to be a problem, except for what Andy tells her immediately afterward. He pulls her aside and gives her the same speech he gives her in the book of, hey, don't be upset. It only got away a little. You could have set his hair on fire, or his face. Like, it could have been worse. You're getting more control over it. Horse shit. Does not work the way it happens in the movie, because in the book, that makes sense because she's not trying to set anything on fire.
Right.
It gets away from her. She literally walks away and is like, hey, fuck you. Sets his shoes on fire. She's literally
staring at him. Yeah. And it happens.
It doesn't
you're absolutely
work.
Right.
I was just going to say that I don't like that change because it does make what she did intentional and not accidental. And it makes you wonder, okay, they're teaching her, or they're trying to teach her to control it. So what's really going on there? Why is she allowing herself to mean mug some dude she doesn't know and then intentionally light him on fire?
Yeah, it's it's consistency. It's the logical consistency of the characters doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Charlie does not feel, we never really feel her, the like shame she has in her powers.
Because she set out to do it. And when she did it in the book, it was just so accidental. Mm-hmm. And I think that's more powerful.
Yeah,
for her
absolutely. What happens next? God, it's leaving me already, guys.
They leave the airport and they go to the hotel. I mean, it does really follow the book, like step by step almost.
Yeah, it's just, it almost, while I do like the book, seeing it all acted out over 2 hours makes you go, wow, nothing happens in this book.
I argued that from episode 1.
You sure did.
They changed. So some of the changes they made in the movie, I like totally on board. That's fine. That works. For example, when he's flashing back and Charlie gets kidnapped, we don't go through the whole him calling the friend and then going, trying to find her and making that stop and then going to the rest stop. He just goes to the friend's house. She's being kidnapped from that lady's home.
Yeah, it's just efficient.
Tightens things up. Yeah. I wish they would have changed more.
Is that like just whole story across the board?
Yeah. Just picked it up a little bit, tightened it up a little bit, made it a little shorter.
Ooh, now I like this segment. Ladies and gentlemen, a new segment, CM's pitch meeting. CM, please pitch us your take on a Firestarter movie.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I have one really great idea for you guys. Stick with me.
All right.
It's going to be wild.
Okay.
Rainbird never talks about how beautiful Charlie is. He never says that he wants to get inside of her.
He does not say he wants to get inside of her.
I heard
no
what
matter
I heard.
what you two... Okay.
I will concede to mishearing that.
Okay, so let's... All I want to talk about is Rainbird.
Forever.
We've alluded to it, but Rainbird, obviously... my favorite character in the story because of how fucking scary he is.
He's so badass.
And he is played by very old, very fat. Oh, wow. I almost said John C. Reilly. I would watch the fuck out of that movie.
Yes. New dream casting. John C. Reilly in the remake.
He is played by very old, very fat George C. Scott.
Who is, as you may have guessed, not Native American.
No.
But he is... American, Scottish, and Irish.
In German?
Yeah,
in German.
Yeah.
White as hell.
So white.
And I guess in the movie's defense, they never outright say, hey, John Rainbird, he's Native American.
But they dress him kind of like
but
what
they
think a Native
100%
American
dress
dresses
him
like.
and make him have the long ponytail. And I couldn't completely tell, but probably darken his skin a little bit.
He looked pretty tan.
It sucks.
No, I didn't like that.
It sucks.
I don't know what happened with that. I don't know if this is like something it's fair to blame the actor for. Maybe he had no idea that it was supposed to be a Native American character. So I feel bad calling him old and fat.
You feel bad for using your eyes?
He wasn't doing a bad job playing a character. He just was not Rainbird. Not just because he's a white dude, but because he did not project that persona way Rainbird is. It just like was all cut away.
He was not scary. He was not the quiet, contemplative, menacing Rainbird. He was kind of jolly, and he was always laughing. And
he's a guy who definitely pushed the air before him when he walked into a room.
Yes.
And I don't mean
who's making fat jokes now?
Oh my God.
But it's bad. It is the worst casting possible.
Well, yes, the casting is bad. He physically looks like the opposite of what I would imagine Rainbird. I said several times, I know that it's an older movie, but his grotesque face is barely like they put a cataract contact in one eye and drew a scar down half of his face.
Yeah.
But it's not terrifying. He's not intense. He's not scary. But here is the most problematic thing that I have with Rainbird. The scene in the dark. It's that scene was one of my favorite things in the book because it illustrates Rainbird's pure fucking genius at improvising this vulnerable side of him that doesn't exist. In this, the storm is happening and the lights flicker and he's like, man, I sure hope the power doesn't go off. I'd be real upset if there was no lights. Just telegraphs it so hard that it made it feel like in the book he says, "Guy, you could have orchestrated this accident forever ago." And to me, this adaptation feels like that's exactly what they did.
It was clumsy.
It was so clumsy.
And the scene didn't help the scene that it was filmed in what looks like pure daylight. Like,
it's so bright.
Yeah.
Boy, there sure is a lot of light for this completely dark room.
You guys didn't let me finish my pitch.
Sorry.
Sorry. So the only actor that is cast is Drew Barrymore, and everyone else is a cardboard cutout of a person.
I thought you were going to do the everyone else is a Muppet thing that's on Twitter. I'd watch that.
I mean, props to her. I think it would be interesting to watch.
She is the best. Although I also think that Martin Sheen being cast as Cap is pretty good, although too young in this movie.
He's not Cap to me.
I think
he didn't do a bad job.
Martin Sheen now,
modern
Martin Sheen would be the perfect Cap.
They were just way ahead of their time with that one.
Yeah. In the remake, he should still play Cap, and it'd be much better.
I think Martin Sheen played Cap in a way that, because we lost Hochstetter, we lost a full character with all that malicious intent, and I feel like they took Hochstetter, split him in half, and gave him half of that to Pinchot and half of that to Cap to show the different reactions. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing Cap so fucking excited about the success of the experiments.
Yes.
That was like, it made me really enjoy that.
Okay, so where we are in the plot, they leave the motel and they meet Irv Manders. This is all
he's
literally
adorable.
Exactly,
and he is
like
robbing the cradle.
Norma is his daughter's age.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job, though.
Yeah, they do. I liked them both.
For as short as this bit is.
No burning chickens, Ben.
I know. It was around this part that I turned to CM and asked how much fucking longer is this movie? And the one thing that kept me going was I wanted to see some chickens explode. Which brings us to the incident at the Manders farm. No chickens explode.
Not a
Did
single.
that feel...
No one gets bean stabbed.
Okay, is it just because we read the book and there were all those details, for example, the bean stabbing that we really appreciated, and the chicken explosion and the house burns down, and Irv doesn't seem like he just got winged. He seems like he's in actual danger with his wound. Did this feel like a really anticlimactic and boring showdown? Is it just me?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this scene. I thought they did pretty well.
I thought the effects were well done, but I was just sort of waiting for it to be over.
Yeah, I enjoyed the special effects, especially watching all of those cars explode and then those two guys run to the only not exploded car and then it get exploded. There were a lot of like really cool moments in that sequence. I felt zero tension.
Yeah,
And
I would agree with that.
It's something that even if you know what is going to happen, there are still movies I see that I've seen 100 times and I still get tense at moments. I knew what was going to happen, but I felt no tension in that entire altercation. I feel like they wanted to stay so true to that plot by plot moving of the story that they let go of interesting things. It kind of going to what CM said a while ago about having it be different. I don't know if I would be excited to see this movie with a whole different structure, but I wouldn't be upset if we skipped over some of that plot by plot movement just to get some of that really cool action. Like the stuff at Granther's, boring, not necessary. It happens in the book, sure, but I mean, I would have been fine if they'd done the story where the incident at the Manders farm happens and they don't leave and Rainbird comes back and strikes them there or something. Something small like that so that you could give that whole area more time to develop.
Are you just trying to get out of us having to hear the word Granther?
I really am.
The only part of the Granther saga that's worth talking about is the fake out that's in the book of him going and taking the letters to that he's going to send to the newspapers.
That is something else I want to talk about forever.
And there is the fake out of, all these people in the town, they could talk, but they're mostly quiet, keep to themselves. And then there's the one guy that spots him and calls from the shop from a scrambler phone. That is replaced with he walks into town and an old woman in a shop sees him and goes, "Can I use your phone?" And then cut to Martin Sheen going, "Oh, you got him?" And an old lady going, "Yep, it's him." And then that's it.
It's so dumb.
Was pretty dumb.
Okay, kind of going down that train, something that for this plot point remake, I did not realize how much losing the passage of time destroys this story for me.
Yep.
The fact that this story, the way this movie goes, this happened in a week.
Yes. I didn't think about it, but
I would have even accepted a 5 months later thing over the screen just to show, or the passing of the seasons, because it's basically, it looks like they get there and the next morning they're leaving.
Yep.
Yeah, it could easily, if someone said this whole movie took place in 2 days, I would believe that.
Because that's part of what makes the scene of the guy who owns the shop across from the mailboxes calling the info in. That's what made that reveal so cool, is because he's been there for months.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys help me understand why I'm more upset about the mailman being robbed and protesting than just being straight up killed? Like, I feel like it was a bigger injustice in the book, and in the movie they just straight up like choke him out.
Yeah, because he has to live with the knowledge that the government has betrayed him.
I think that's another tension building thing that we missed from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another example of people standing up for what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is his duty. And instead he pulls over to help somebody whose car's broken down, and Rainbird strangles him happily. It's like how it seemed like, it almost seemed like
Could you strangle happily?
if I This is not how it played in the movie, but in my mental theater, if I play back that scene, it is a man roughly the physique of Santa Claus wrapping a rope around this guy, lifting him up and just going,
Josh, do you watch movies twice removed from the actual movie?
sometimes.
What? You have to watch a movie and then filter it through your own Josh filter?
Yeah, I am a narcissist.
This
yes.
movie was not what Josh wants.
So in Josh's Firestarter, Rainbird is Santa.
The physique of Santa. Like, as I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking of Rainbird as sloppier and fatter, it is in my brain exaggerating that to a comic style. Because of how much that scene had so little impact on me.
I think you guys are ruining my rating.
I would pay any amount of money to be able to watch a movie through that lens.
You kind of did with the running man.
Yeah, that's true. We can skip ahead to they've been captured, right?
But we need to talk about how great that end scene, the end shot of the capture scene is.
Oh, because that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That he fires very, very slowly, fires 2 darts, taking both of them out, and just in this shot of the tree line, and then you see people in the fireproof suits. You see one guy poke up,
yes,
then another guy, then Rainbird starts walking in the distance, and then as he's coming out, another one, until there's like 10 people that have just been in this shot, hidden in these protective suits. And they walk up. It's so cool.
It's very surreal. It makes me wonder if they got like a different director for that one day. Because it is the one thing that happens in the movie that actually is visually striking.
Well, and we talk about how ineffective the shop is. And that scene right there just shows how prepared they were for that to go wrong, and they were prepared to escalate. And I thought that was a nice show of force.
Charlie and Andy have been captured, and we get to see the movie's take on the secret underground shop apartments. Pretty nice.
Very
Looks
fancy.
Like a at least 4-star bed and breakfast.
Yeah, like a really, really nice hotel.
Mm-hmm. Like there's that. I say bed and breakfast because it has like that floor to ceiling wallpaper, and like, everything's floral and extravagant, and these big cushy chairs, and I wanted to sleep there, kind of.
I wouldn't complain. I actually do like that because it is kind of jarring.
Yeah,
because in my head, in the book, I imagined, like you said while we were watching it, I did imagine them to be comfortable, but I imagined them to be very sterile.
Yeah, more like an efficiency apartment, very sparse, just what you need, comfortable, but nothing
like a dorm
fancy.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this kind of shows like the lengths that the shop goes to, which is kind of eerie.
Well, yeah, because why make everybody so comfortable?
And they have like fancy curtains and like window dressing that they immediately pull down, and it's literally just a steel wall. Mm-hmm. And that's it's them going to such unnecessary lengths.
Did I just assume this in the reading? But I thought their section was completely underground.
I
assumed that as well. Yeah, because they say that it's under the house.
Yeah.
It's under the shop's like plantation style house. So
I
didn't think
why
about
the
that.
windows being blocked off made complete sense to me.
But she had a skylight.
But then she apparently had a skylight.
Because we could see the lightning
during the storm
inside her room, and if there were no windows, we wouldn't be able to see the lightning, and that really bothered me.
What if there was just like a technician back there just flipping the lights on and off because they think Charlie's a really dumb kid. And they're like, this will make her think that there's lightning.
Rainbird thinks she's a really dumb kid. He acts like he has never talked to a kid before and doesn't understand what kids are.
Well, okay. The developing of that relationship. again, we talked about the blackout sequence, but all in all, this relationship that they develop in the book feels like such a payoff because we know how hard Rainbird's trying. And yes, it's because we lose out on internal monologue when we have movies that don't have internal monologue. But I felt like it was lacking any reward. Like, we don't see the fallout of after that incident happens and we have the meeting with Cap, Hockstetter, and Rainbird where Hockstetter's screaming at him for, giving her that idea. We get to see Rainbird bragging and in control of the situation and reaping the reward of all the work he's put in. And the way this flows, it seems like Charlie was only moderately standoffish. Like she talks to him the first time he visits, which is not how it happens. He has to see her a bunch of times for her to even speak to him. I think actually, isn't the blackout the first time she ever speaks to him?
More than a couple words, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have at this point accepted a room cleaning montage just again to show us the passage of time and how long he's had to work on her, how stubborn she's being. Because what they did do that I really liked is in one scene we see Andy in a chair and there are like 3 men on him forcing drugs into his mouth and down his throat. And then it immediately cuts to Charlie and there's 2 men with her and she's in this bed and it's full of gifts and presents and they're just trying to engage with her and get her interested and excited and opening up. And it was cool to see how they were treating both of them.
I agree.
And that's where that stopped.
No, I agree. It's just, I mean, it's part of, obviously a movie can't give us, like you said, every bit of internal monologue. It can't give us all the details that a novel would. But there's so much stuff that even events that would have given us a chance to get into the characters' heads are either not there or moved in such a way that they don't land. Charlie finds out after she's done all the tests and she's asking to see her dad. In the book, she finds out that Rainbird has betrayed her. What was it, days? Or at least a day before the escape. And it allows us to see how much that information hurts her. It shows us, if that would have been shown to us and given us a chance to see the depth of the betrayal, it would have made us feel like the connection between her and Rainbird was so much more powerful than it looked. But instead, she literally doesn't find that out until they're in the barn with Rainbird, and Andy says, no, he's the one that shot us. He's the one that captured us. And it just falls flat.
Well, they had to do that so that we could get the sweet callback to Rainbird's judo wind-up.
Where I thought he was having a heart attack.
Okay, yeah. So, Andy during the captured. We haven't even talked about Andy during this captured segment.
That's true.
Because it's nothing.
It's boring.
It's boring. It doesn't get into the addiction angle because how do you portray that just visually if you're a bad director? So, like, he's just shown like just crying and watching Woody Woodpecker. And he doesn't have a dream sequence. He just learns he can change the channels on his TV with his brain again. That's how he knows he has his powers back.
Well, he gets his powers back by giving himself a pep talk in the mirror and saying, you can't help Charlie if you are stoned. And then he starts not taking his meds. But for some reason, that's just not taking his meds brings his powers back, despite the fact that his powers stopped working in the first experiment.
I literally did not see that scene. I was in the room the whole time. I do not remember that at all.
So it makes a little more sense, but it still doesn't have that weight.
It has no impact.
Yeah.
It's lame. But he does get his powers back, and he never pushes Pinchot, which, good or bad, guys?
I'm okay with it.
I would have liked to see Arm in a garbage disposal.
You mean a vaginal disposal.
Yeah,
This is so weird because it's like, was it too faithful to the book? Were they trying too hard? Which I had never thought that I would hear myself saying, because I always want be more faithful to the book, do more with the book. When he pushes Cap, they bring the snake thing in for just a second. And it's like, that's totally for people who've read the book.
Yeah.
That does not come up again. And it makes no sense because we don't know anything about the Echo from the movie itself.
This goes back to, if we had not read the book, would this movie make any fucking sense? No.
The Echo and the Ricochet are two of the best things about the book. They are, by and large, the most interesting thing because it is such a delicate, problematic thing that weighs on Andy and his actions so much.
We get just enough of it.
We don't get any of it.
No, but I mean, in the book, we get just enough of it. Same with Charlie's powers. Where is that energy coming from? That it's so intriguing, and you finish the book, and you're still thinking about it, and you're still talking about it, and speculating. And I don't know if that's fair because I don't know. Is there an effective way to do that?
It would have been like an Echo in the movie. Absolutely, I think it would have been extremely interesting.
I mean, they talk about it in the book, so we could have learned about it through their conversation.
Yeah, and the Echo that happens to Cap does not take a lot of time. It is the first push. It is seeing a desk drawer open, which could have happened in a conversation with Rainbird or something. Anytime he was in his office, then it is him talking about golf, and then it's a fire hose. Or no, just a garden hose.
Yeah. It could have been in the movie so easily, and it would have added it. It's such... I think I mentioned this in one of the first two episodes, that the reason I love the push, the reason I love this book, like my favorite part of the book is that it is a take on superpowers and superheroes where the powers have major downsides. I love the idea of superpowers where it's not just fucking Superman and I can do anything and there's no downside. I love... that's why I love the X-Men so much. One of my favorite X-Men is this guy named Chamber, who has pretty much Cyclops' powers, except the blast comes from his chest, and the first time he used it, he blew his own jaw off.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the push. It's like, it's so powerful, but there are these downsides, and that
it's that balance of superpower versus vulnerability, and a really good story kind of mixes those and balances them in a way that ups the stakes and makes you care and makes you worry and wonder, is this character going to be okay?
And instead, what we get in this is literally he goes on a walk with Cap and says, "Hey, it'll bite you." And everyone in the room goes, "What?" And he goes, "That snake you're holding." And then Cap is holding a very, very small, non-threatening snake. And then it's never brought up again. You're like, the fuck was that
it supposed
about?
To be him like testing whether he could push before he said something that would give away he was trying to
Before
push?
he grabbed his head?
I mean, that follows because Andy is really dumb about using his powers. He uses it for the worst possible way.
I was hoping they'd fix that in the showdown between him and Rainbird.
They kind of do.
Well,
before they kind of really don't.
Yeah, they kind of do. Then they just go back.
Should we talk about the final confrontation?
Absolutely.
Charlie spills the beans about we're leaving at 8:00 tonight.
To Rainbird.
To Rainbird.
The thing that I said she would have done.
Yeah,
yes,
that's very true.
Because that's really obvious. Never mind. I don't know why I got so
and
proud.
that's the point where Rainbird goes, "That's really great," and like
has a heart attack.
He grabs at his chest, which is what he does when he karate chopped Wanless in the face. And you're like, oh, he's gonna get Charlie, or he's just feeling himself up.
That angle would be hard. She's so much shorter, and
his plan gets foiled. And I can't remember which one of you brought this up, but stupidly, because just another shop employee comes in And then he's like, oh, okay, I can't do it. It's like, well, you're Rainbird. You can do what you want. Yeah. But maybe that guy would have ruined his moment of watching her death and like savoring it.
I think we're giving it way more credit than it deserves.
What I do.
But
Rainbird goes into the barn or the stable, just like in the book. He hides up in the rafters and waits. The guard brings Charlie, and it follows that path that, she burns his hand to make him let go and leave. And then from the rafters, he calls out to her and tells her to come up. And just before she's going to get up there, her dad comes bursting in. And then we go into slow motion as we all prepare for something terrible to happen.
Yeah, she is running towards him in slow motion, and you see her like coming towards the screen, and I'm waiting for that moment when it cuts back to Andy, and then we see him get shot by Rainbird before he has a chance to catch Charlie in his arms. Then he just catches her.
Yep. Super, super anticlimactic. He catches Charlie, and he's like, let's get out of here, and she says, John's here, though, which Andy just learned on like the drive over who Rainbird is.
Yeah.
And Rainbird, they're having the back and forth, taunting each other. And for a split second, I had really high hopes for this part, because instead of the snake as sex machina that saves them in the book, where Cap freaks out because he thinks he saw a snake, Andy does the coolest thing he does in the movie, turns to Cap and just goes, kill him, and then runs off.
Yeah. Great idea, man.
And that Martin Sheen getting that bullet through the skull from Rainbird was so fucking cool.
That was good.
That was a really cool way for him to die. However, it's followed up by the most ridiculous thing, because stepping out to shoot Cap has brought Rainbird in eyesight of Andy, and Andy grabs his hair and just stares at him, and Rainbird's like trying to fight, like just shaking his head around. And then we get the audio cue that it worked. And then he says jump. But what Rainbird heard was shoulder tackle this hay bale, because that's what he does.
The sound he makes.
The sound is great.
He's behind a wall of hay and he says jump, and so he jumps through it while making a Frankenstein noise.
Would you like to take a stab at the noise?
Hold on, he's like and just dives through a bunch of hay, and it is worth the price of admission, because it's so fucking stupid.
The most offensive part of that scene to me was the Rainbird Peekaboo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he's this really skilled assassin, and when they figure out what's going on, and Andy's, they're throwing taunts back and forth, he's just like darting behind things on the loft, like peeking in and out. It's like, he's this guy that you never know he's even there.
Yeah. Just like it'd be so much more menacing of him, like just like in the book, just slowly drawing a bead on him. Mm-hmm. But nope.
Okay. So he shoots Andy after he falls, he shoots him like he does in the book, and Andy's dying. And
we do not get the Andy's death in the book is so tragic because it was his final
act.
It's his act of sacrifice to save Charlie.
It's not him getting shot. It's him pushing Rainbird so hard to jump.
Yes.
That he ruptures his brain. And in the book, he gets shot and then he's bleeding. And then Charlie has her standoff with Rainbird. And the first time I didn't appreciate the special effect so much, when he fires the bullet and it like stops in midair and then it burns up and explodes.
It looks like a mini Death Star explosion.
It does. But then it's followed by a really cool special effect where she fire blasts Rainbird and sends him flying into the back wall of the barn.
Yeah. The best part of this ending is, for all of the flaws of this movie, the fucking special effects in the final destruction are rad as hell.
Absolutely. I do like they hit all those. They doubled down on the fireballs. I think in the book.
Okay, though. Like,
Yeah.
I could have even done with a few more. Just fireballs raining down. It reminded me of Carrie in Rose Red with the rocks raining down. And I was like, wow, maybe she's like pulling down meteorites or asteroids or something. Or she's channeling the sun.
It
I don't
doesn't
know.
make sense where they're coming from.
No, they
but
just appear on screen.
it looks cool as hell, so it doesn't matter.
Well, at this point, you've just kind of given up on the story making sense, and you're just like, fireballs. Yeah.
It's the 80s, whatever.
Yeah.
This scene made sense that the only movie of note that this director ever made after this was Commando, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, like, that tracks.
Yeah.
Just long sequences of things blowing up and people falling over. It's like, yeah, okay. Wish the movie was more of this.
Watching Pinchot drive away in that little golf cart, and he just kept looking over his shoulder every few feet until he exploded.
Okay, the best part of this was either the fire tendrils, which looked
fire tendrils were
exactly
great.
as I imagined them in the book. The snakes of fire shooting out from her. So cool. But the best part was the guy across the tiny bridge.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God. It's the guy who was supposed to be the Jones or
Orville?
The guy who was with Rainbird when they captured him, and he.
Oh, Don Jules.
Don
Yes.
Jules. Yeah. So the Don Jules is hiding on the other side of the bridge, and
With his perm.
he gets fireballed, which the fireball is cool, but then they do something even more magical. The impact of the fireball projects him all the way up into the air, into a tree. And he just explodes into this tree.
I could not help but think of all of the people on set that day and how that had to have been the best day of work anyone has ever had.
So much fun.
It's like, what did you do at work today? I fucking set a mannequin on fire and then blew the fucker into a tree. It was awesome.
I have one question in regards to this final epic scene. Which do you think plays better, when she takes the building down with just fireball after fireball after fireball, or the way it's represented in the book, where she just turns, looks at the building, nothing happens, and then boom?
It's I did think of this visually. Obviously, I think this works better because it's a spectacle. This isn't the only part that's in the book that they changed dramatically that I think is for the best, specifically just because it is a visual medium. It is this and the scene that we skipped over with the cinder block wall.
That was
scene
cool.
was really
Because in the book, both instances are Charlie unleashes her power so violently and so powerfully, it is destroyed faster than the human eye can take in. Which, when you read about it, it's like, fuck, that's awesome and scary and just great. But if they had done that in the movie, it would have been like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, you're right.
It would have had to be, it happens, and then the characters go, wow, she blew it up faster than you could see. I think it is a better direction option, just visual option, to show the destruction and show a wall of cinder blocks slowly bursting into flame.
It's one of those things I said earlier. There were a couple of things that they changed that I thought worked really, really well. I wanted them to then take that and keep going and just be bolder. Well, anyway, so that I honestly don't remember how this scene ends. I feel like she explodes a house and then she arrives at Irv's in a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that literally how it happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it goes from showing like a close-up of her face to the burning house. And
And she's
like,
crying, and she says, "This is for you, Daddy." And then it cuts to the truck pulling up at the Manders farm.
And they accept her.
and take her to the New York Times instead of Rolling Stone, which, sure.
Whatever.
Sure. Overall, no, I was going to try and be like, talking about it has made me enjoy it more.
You know what's really messed up? So we've had a number of incidents on this podcast where mostly Josh has come in with a rating in mind.
Mhm.
And then after talking to us, Josh, you've had a different opinion afterwards. And
Yeah,
your
that-
rating
Yeah.
has increased just a bit.
I was trying to pull a Josh. Yeah, I was trying to be like, no, I did like this
You
movie.
guys have made me pull a reverse Josh. I came in prepared to be a little more forgiving and accepting of it and find things that I liked about it, and you made me like it less.
Well, before we get to our ratings, I thought it would be fun. We've talked a lot about, I still would love to see a modern take on this movie. I think given the right director, this could be a fantastic movie. I truly believe that.
Agreed.
So I wanted to see if we could fully cast the remake.
All right.
So I've given a few. I still think Chris Pratt would make a fantastic Andy.
Yes.
Drew Barrymore as Charlie. She did such a good job. I can't see anyone else.
In a propeller hat with
Yeah.
a big.
No, Drew Barrymore
Lolly.
has to play her mom's
Yeah, I was gonna say
character.
she would
Absolutely.
totally play
that'd be
Vicky.
awesome.
Yeah. What do you guys
still
think?
Martin Sheen is
Still
Crab.
Martin Sheen. Do you guys have castings for Rainbird?
I know who I want to say, but
I also I've said in both of the last episodes that I do think Javier Bardem would be really cool as Rainbird. The more after watching the movie and seeing George C. Scott, a white dude, I think Javier Bardem is Italian. Season 2 of the FX adaptation of Fargo, there is an actor named Zahn McLaren. Boy, I am so sorry to Mr. McLaren, but he is of Native American descent and he is amazing. He is a fantastic actor, and go watch that show because one, it's amazing, and two, he has the perfect demeanor.
He looks in my head like what I was picturing Rainbird.
Yes, he is fantastic. I think he could fucking kill the part of Rainbird.
Mm-hmm.
the only actor I could think of, I had to look it up because I can never remember his name because I know him from a movie that I hate, is Billy Wirth from Lost Boys. He's got,
Josh,
the
you
kid.
just say that you hate Lost Boys.
Yeah, I did. And he's
Okay, you're a bad person.
he's got a really just intense, like scary looking face. And I bet if you did the appropriate look for Rainbird, he'd fucking rock.
I think that's a pretty good cast.
I think so too.
Yeah, I don't think, and anyone else is just sort of, well, I guess Irv and Norma.
Yeah.
John Lithgow.
I was just about to say,
gonna say that.
John Lithgow did great in Pet Sematary. Just throw him in there. You can never have too much Lithgow. Anyway, that's the movie. I think we should get to our ratings, guys.
Let's do it.
I kind of already gave mine. You guys changed my mind. 3 out of 5 blue chambray shirts. Not horrible, not great, just kind of middle of the road for me.
Is that the lowest rating you've given anything that we've done so far?
No.
No?
Apt pupil.
Oh, that's right.
Which leads me to my score. 1, I would not recommend watching this movie. Do not watch it. Go on YouTube and look up a supercut of the special effects scenes because that's the only thing worth watching in this movie. I would rather watch Apt Pupil.
Oof.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Because, here's why. Not like for personal enjoyment, watch them. Because I'd never watch either of these for personal enjoyment ever again in my life. But if I had to pick the 3 of us sitting together watching a Stephen King movie, I would rather the 3 of us watch Apt Pupil because it's more fun to discuss the big differences, to discuss things that work, that don't work. This movie was boring. I enjoyed the beginning, I enjoyed the end, but the hour in the middle was just nothing. We couldn't really crack many fun jokes. We did very little talking at all because it was just like, all right, we're getting through this. So I am going to score the movie Firestarter 2 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
I could not have said that better myself. Like, that is exactly my thoughts on the movie. Watching it, I love watching movies with you guys. It's so much fun. I've honestly been looking forward to today because we haven't done a movie in a while.
Yeah, me too.
And like, I was really excited for it. And I wasn't kidding when I said earlier, I turned to CM and said, we can just be done. Like, I don't think we need to watch this whole movie. I get it. There are some interesting parts. The effects are cool. Drew Barrymore is great. But I agree. I can't recommend this movie. I think I have to give it 2 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Well, that's it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Join us for our next episode, where we'll be covering part 1 of The Outsider, and we'll be reading through the chapter titled The Arraignment. For Benjamin Graham and Sam Alexander, I'm Joshua Kahn, asking you, if I do something bad, will you still love me?
Hey everyone, Sam Alexander here. Thanks for listening to Firestarter Part 3. Let us know if you agree with our ratings or if you feel differently. You can tell us on social media at Derry Public Radio or email us at derrypublicradio@gmail.com. And speaking of social media, we have a really exciting announcement that we'll be making in early March. We've been spending extra time in the studio the whole month of February, and we can't wait for March to get here, so keep an eye on that announcement. Don't forget to check out our Patreon for bonus episodes and our website, constantreaders.org, for extra fun stuff related to Stephen King and everything Stephen King adjacent. And if you've enjoyed our episodes, please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes because it really helps us out. It helps keep us in the charts so other listeners can find us. That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.